Well, for the past 25 years, Australian homes have been getting bigger and bigger, while our families have been getting smaller and smaller. There's just one factor which has led to some pretty unaffordable housing in this country, and to fill us in on some of the other trends influencing our ability to fulfil the great Australian dream of home ownership is Harcourts International Managing Director Mike Green. Mike, thanks for your time. Housing affordability for renters getting worse.
It is, Richard. It's quite ironic because at a time when the home ownership affordability has increased quite dramatically in the last 6 months. At the same time, rental affordability has decreased just as dramatically. And there's a number of reasons for that. Obviously, the economic challenges that we're currently seeing has meant a whole lot of property investors have simply left the market. They're not buying property, and of course, those properties aren't going into the rental pool. A whole lot have, in fact, liquidated those properties to free up cash to offset losses in other parts of their portfolios, as well as to reduce debt. And of course, those properties leave the pool. We've seen first home buyers come back into the market very, very strongly since Christmas. And of course that takes more property out of the rental pool. At the same time, immigration is still strong. We've got Queensland, for example, over 1,500 people a week moving into Queensland. So as any good economist will tell you, as supply diminishes and demand increases, pressure automatically goes on prices. And in this case, it's on rents. And we've seen right across Australia in the last 3 years, the average rental paid has increased by over 33%.
Right. It's kind of interesting, though, because one would assume that with the government's first-time owners grant, renters would leave, or first-time home buyers, potential first-time buyers, would leave their rental properties and buy their own properties, or go and build their own properties, or build apartments and that sort of a thing. We're not starting to see that, do you think? Oh,
we certainly are. Yes, no, we certainly are. There's a fixed number of people in the rental market at all the time, people that have chosen not to own their own homes for whatever reasons, or who are moving around or whatever it may be. But as I say, since Christmas, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic about the market, because since Christmas we've seen a huge increase in first home buyer activity. Harcourts offices right around Australia reporting the strongest sales we've seen for some time. Right. And there's a number of reasons for that.
Homes or apartments?
Yeah, well, homes and apartments, and new homes as well as existing. Yeah, obviously the first home buyers grant being doubled through to June has got a lot of people into the marketplace. Interest rates are lower. There's stamp duty concessions in a number of the states. All of this has led to, you know, home ownership affordability being a lot more affordable for people. And of course that'll flow through to the rest of the market, because as those first home buyers buy those properties, the sellers of those properties are then released to buy, in most cases, the next level up, and then they're released to buy. So it flows through right across the market.
From your experience, and this is one thing that I have a lot of discussions with people my age, when we're talking about the first home buyers grant ending in June, what do you think is the potential for that to be extended?
Well, I can't obviously speak for the government. From our perspective, it's having quite a significant impact right now, right. And we see that continuing right through. I think it clearly is something that the government should very seriously consider, because, as I say, it does flow through into the market, and the housing market is a key component of our economy. So come June, I would, you know, encourage the government to reconsider not extending that even further.
Okay. Looking into 2009, how do you see the market shaping up?
As I said, Richard, I'm optimistic. I guess I would be optimistic, but I am optimistic. I think a lot of our basic fundamentals in the economy, even with the slowing resource sector, it's still a key component. There is still demand, and I think those fundamentals are still strong. We are seeing the first home buyers come in. That will flow through into the market. So I'm optimistic. I think the market will continue to improve all this year, and it may not be like it did 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, but it'll certainly improve. I think we've seen the worst of it in 2008, so we're optimistic. The only cloud, I guess, that's on the horizon that does have the ability to impact quite strongly is unemployment. Right. And of course, it doesn't matter how low interest rates are or how big first home buyer grants are. At the end of the day, if you don't have a job or very good job security, that impacts on your ability to get into the market. And
we constantly hear about how Australia is one of the most unaffordable places to own a home. How does it compare with the rest of the world?
It varies. You know, there are certainly areas in Sydney and Brisbane and Melbourne that are very expensive on a global comparison. But generally speaking, Australia is, I think the Australian market is well positioned and very affordable in the wider market segment.
Okay. Mike, appreciate analysis on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.